welcome to episode 4 of SomerKnits. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for sticking with me. And if this is your first time here, welcome to my little space where I share about my knitting, what I've worked on, what I want to work on, sometimes stash acquisitions, and other knitting related things. So let's dive right in. I only have one finished object to show you because the other one has already gone into the mail. I'll start with that. I showed you the beginning of the blanket square last episode and I finished it, and I will pop a picture up. It's for a blanket that a friend of mine is making for someone who might need a little comfort in their life, and I was just happy to contribute to that project. So my little square is already in the mail to join a whole bunch of other little squares, and hopefully it'll be a fabulous lap blanket when she finishes it. I can't wait to see it. The other finished object is also what I'm wearing, and this is my V-back tee. And while it felt like it took forever in some aspects, when I looked at my start and end dates and the number of projects that I had done in between there, it actually went really quickly, especially for a fingering weight t-shirt that I feel is solid enough that I don't have to wear a camisole under it unless I really need to. And I don't feel like I need to, except maybe if I'm going to be in air conditioning all day long. But it is a really cute t-shirt. Here you can see how the back, it V's right down the back, and you can see how the shaping creates really interesting pooling. And I like this yarn so much better now in this iteration than I did the first time that I tried to knit it vertically, and I did not like the vertical pooling. You can see how the interesting shaping brings the bottom level again after you get done making that whole V, and it hits at a great length for me. I really like it. I did add a little bit to the ribbing on the bottom, and I did extend the arms just by like 4 or 5 rows. I ended up choosing to do a tubular bind off both at the bottom and on the sleeves because it matches the tubular cast on the neck very nicely. Oh, looks like I missed an end when I was trimming. But also it is a very stretchy bind off, so I felt like I wasn't going to have to worry as much about trying to bind off loosely. And that can be very difficult to bind off both loosely and evenly and end up with a pretty bind off. And I considered Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, but I find that one bulky. And for a fingering weight t-shirt, I just really wanted something very smooth looking. So I went with the tubular bind off because I felt like it made a good match for the neckline. And it would give me the stretch I wanted, both at the bottom and on the arms. And it just gave it a very polished, finished look, I thought. The pattern calls for you to bind off in pattern, which I understand, but it's very hard for me to do so loosely and evenly. And I know that different people have different tips and tricks for that, and you may have a different way of doing it, but that's what I decided to do. I did go down to size 2s for the neckline. It's kind of funny. I swatched, I don't really remember, and I pulled it out because I thought I might need all that yarn, and I ended up casting on size 2s. So I think that my plan was to go down a full needle size from the pattern. But then it occurred to me later as I was knitting and checked the needles I was using that I actually did knit the body in the needle size called for in the pattern, which was a 6. And if I'd gone down to a 2 for the cast on, I think that I would have intended to knit it in a 5. But then when I checked my gauge while I was going, it was pretty accurate. And I've worked with the Violet Valentine's favorite sock yarn enough in previous garments that I know how it behaves with blocking. I made the Casa Grande sweater in her favorite sock. So I know how it behaves in blocking, and I decided to go on with the 6s because I liked the fabric I was getting, and I feel like the 5s might have been too dense a fabric. So when I got to the bottom and had to decide about the ribbing, I went back and forth. Did I want to do a 2 like I had done for the neckline, or did I want to do a 3 like the pattern called for? And I ended up doing a 3 for both the bottom and the cuffs because I felt like I didn't really want those to pull in any more than necessary. And I think it actually worked out perfectly. I have had trouble in the past with my necklines getting too large because I'm a fairly loose knitter and I feel like my ribbing gauge tends to be very loose. So I've had trouble with necklines being larger than I wanted them to. And this neckline hangs perfectly. Like, I absolutely would not change a thing about the neckline or the back. I'm going to show you the back again so that you can see where the V sits. It sits high enough for me to wear a regular bra with it, but low enough that I could wear a lace tank or bralette that I wanted to show. Or when I turn it around and wear it the other way, because the pattern is reversible, it's not so low a V-neck that I need additional coverage in front. So I just really feel like this neck hangs perfectly, and it's making me consider whether I might want to go down an additional needle size for necklines overall with the next garment I do, depending on if it's supposed to be a loose neckline or a tighter one. But I just really like the way this neckline hangs. So it's something for me to think about and consider as I make additional garments. And once again, this was the Violet Valentine. She's a hand dyer on Etsy. Favorite sock. And the colorway in this one was Sweet Pea. She did a monthly subscription series in 2020 that was all flower based. So every colorway was a different flower, and I just really loved this one. And then another note on this pattern, I made size 3, and according to the pattern, I should have needed to break into a 3rd skein. So I skeined it up before we were out of town for the 4th of July, and I never actually had to break into that 3rd skein. So I have an entire skein of this yarn caked up, and I'm trying to decide what I might want to do with it. It's 400 yards. So open to ideas. I've considered a magpie tendency for my 9-year-old. I think that would be pretty. Or I could just hold on to it and make socks. I mean, it's sock yarn. But overall, V-back tee, definitely 10 out of 10. Pattern was easy to follow. I thought it was well written. I think the fit is really good. It is size inclusive. Just overall a really great pattern. And that pattern is by Jamie Hoffman. And you can find it on Ravelry. She's on Instagram as, I'll look it up. I'll add it down below. But just wonderful pattern. Highly recommend. I want to look into some of her other work and see what else I might like, because this is just a really well-fitting garment that I think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of. So then let's move on to works in progress. I did actually work on my Clearly Determined socks on the boat over the 4th of July. I managed to get the ribbing done. So that's progress, and in another 2 years I'll have a second sock, right? So then I can actually have a full pair. No, not really. Since I made it a short leg on the first sock, it shouldn't be too bad to actually get going in the pattern, but I get motion sick, so trying to read the pattern on the boat was a definite no. So all I did was work on the ribbing, and now I can establish the leg pattern, and I can hopefully actually get moving on those. I'm very excited to have them. I think the pattern is just beautiful, and I know I've shown it before, so I won't spend too much time on it. So I'm finally using my Megan Makes Do bag, and I love it. It's so big and luscious, and I know it's bigger than I need for this next project, but I started the Outline Tank by Jessie May, or Jessie Made Designs if you're going to look up the pattern. So I showed you this yarn that I found at a local yarn store, and it is the Kelborn Woolens Mojave, and it is a cotton linen blend. and it is labeled as a DK weight. It definitely knits like a fingering weight. So you can see it's a very skinny yarn, and it is one of the recommended yarns for this pattern. So tons of people have already used it. I was able to look up other people's projects that had already done this pattern in this yarn, and I love what they got, and I'm really enjoying it. Some people say cotton is very hard on their hands, but this is actually very soft in hand, and it's going to be so next to skin comfortable. I am extending the length. Oh, this is the outline tank. Did I say that? I am extending the length of this because it is a very cropped tank, and I actually want it to at least hit the top of my jeans, if not go past by just a little bit. So I've gotten past the ribbing, which is a twisted rib, and established the pattern area. And it's kind of fun because you can't actually see the drop stitch outline until almost the very end. So that'll be kind of exciting. But now I'm to the just knitting part, which is kind of nice to have a mindless pattern. So I'll be able to just take this with me and hopefully get some real progress on the length. Since it is small needles, I did go down a needle size. I did swatch. When I first got the yarn, I got super excited about it, and I went ahead and caked up one of the skeins, and I did go ahead and swatch, and I did go down a needle size for both the ribbing and the body. So the ribbing was on 2s and the body is on 3s. I'm not concerned about the ribbing really needing to be super structural. I think it's a pretty design element, but it doesn't need to hug, because the tank top will hang from the straps, and then I'm actually hoping not hug my body too tightly. I am doing size 3, so there should be plenty of positive ease there. I have a 36.5 inch full bust, and let me check real quick. Size 3 is an actual measurement of 39.5. So that'll give me 1.5 inches at the top, and then plenty as it goes down. Since it won't go all the way down to my hips, it shouldn't hug in too much at the bottom. But anyway, I'm just in love. I love the color. I'm loving the feeling of the yarn. I was getting a little anxious with it in the beginning because my size 2 needles that I use to cast on and do the twisted rib are super pointy, like super pointy. And the yarn was so splitty. But once I moved to the size 3 needles, I'm not having that problem anymore because they're not as sharp. So they're not causing the yarn to split like it was with the 2s. So I'm past that issue, which is really good, because if the whole garment had been like that and I had been having to watch every stitch for yarn splitting, it would make for a very frustrating knit. But now that I am past the super pointy needles, I have some other size 2s that are more dull tipped like these, but they are technically 2.5s, even though they're labeled as size 2s. In US sizes, they'd be a 2.5, because they are not the they're not the standard size 2 dimension. So that's the outline tank by Jessie Maed, and I'm very excited about that. And like I said, that it is in my Megan Makes Do bag, which I love and adore. I'm still a little paranoid about the white. I'm so worried about getting it dirty. But because it doesn't have its own handle, I do usually put it down inside another bag or my backpack or something. So hopefully I will be able to keep it clean, at least for a while. So that is works in progress. Now I have some old finished objects that my son outgrew that I'm going to pass on to a family friend. So I've been tagging, because back when I made these, I didn't have tags. So I've been adding tags just because it's really fun. And I think it'll be really sweet to have these hats get passed down to another little kid. So I've washed all the hats, and I'm going to add a tag to this one too. And I made this one initially before I even had children. I made it for my god sister's son, and then she threw it in the wash and felted it, so it got a little small. So when I had kids, she gave it back, and I was able to use it with my kids. And now my youngest has outgrown it, so it is going to move on to another small child, which is super exciting. I love things getting used and getting passed down and used over and over, because what is the point of making all these things if nobody uses them? So my hope for everything I make is that it gets used. And I tell myself the same thing about my hand knit garments. I don't want to just make them, wear them once, and have them sit on a shelf. I want to make things that I will reach for and love to wear, because there's a lot that goes into making a garment or an accessory even. I mean, you put your time and your effort and your love and your thought into making it, and so it should get used. And there is something to be said for making art things that get looked at, but I have a tendency to make things that should be used, should be loved on. I made a washcloth years ago that has finally worn out. It has holes in it. And I threw it in the rag bucket. My husband was like, "What is this?" And I went, well, it was, 15 years old, and eventually the cotton wore through and it got old and it fell apart. It's not a big deal because it was well loved for a long time and it served its intended purpose. So, I guess that's kind of how I feel about my knitwear. I think that it should be loved and well used, and I'm hoping that my kids feel the same, and I can save some special things and maybe eventually pass them down. But for now, I am passing on to family, friends, and relatives as my kids outgrow accessories, especially, so that another child will get to use them, and hopefully I get to see them in action. Let's see, I have not cast on anything else other than that outline tank, because I was so intent on finishing this, and I just blocked it this weekend. So I haven't had very many days between this being off the needles and now. But I have so many things in my head that want to be on the needles. It was really hard for me to decide what to cast on, but since that outline tank had been just calling to me, I went ahead and started on it. But for a quick knit project, I really want to cast on a magpie tendency. And if you're familiar with the pattern, it's a pattern intended to use a single skein that is too beautiful to use for socks, or that you just don't know what to do with. And there are different ways to color block it if you want to, or to do it as a solid. But the yoke has part that goes down both sides before it then goes down for the body. And I think that with a more subtle contrast, I don't think I want a huge contrast, but a more subtle contrast, I might like that option where there's like a saddle at the neck and shoulders, and then the body goes down from there. So I have two skeins that I was considering. The first one was a Southern Skeins yarn from the Sock Club from last year, from April of 2020, and it is called Easter Eggs. And this yellow here, the mini skein, is called Sunshine. So it would be yellow shoulders, moving down into this multicolored body. And I think that could be really pretty. So that's an option. If I didn't want to do the saddle shoulders, if I just wanted to do a single skein option, or maybe find a mini to match it, I have this Stardust fingering weight 70% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 5% lurex. And it is by Crystal Skies hand dyed on Etsy. And the colorway is Luna, and it is 463 yards. So that's another possibility. There's not, I mean, since it's a sparkle yarn, I don't feel like I can pair it with a non-sparkle yarn for another project. So I feel like it needs to be its own project, because I think finding something to truly match it would be difficult. Now, if I could find a sparkle yarn in like the blue or the pink, I could do that saddle shoulder look with this, but it might just need to be its own. If you know of another single skein garment project, like knitted a loose gauge, that you think I should consider with this sparkle, I think it's too variegated to be a ranunculus, but it's too pretty to put on my feet. It's my colors and I love it. So I've been saving that since I got it last year. And I've been saving this one since it came last year to try to decide exactly what to do with them. And I just think that at least one of them needs to be a magpie tendency. And then because that looks like such a fast knit, I might make a small one for my daughter as well in another colorway. She loves Descendants, so she likes greens and purples a lot right now. And I could dig through my stash and find so many options. So I might do that for her. Just something that's like stirring around in my brain. The other thing that's stirring around in my brain is what to do with that box that I showed you the first episode, the Comfort Collection, from the Creative Knitter. And I really, after looking at projects and talking to people, think it might need to be a sea glass tee. And I would carry the variegated yarn throughout the whole tee. And then I have to decide how to alternate the solids. The whole tee is worked in 1x1 color work. So do I alternate all the solids like every other row and go through the whole mix of them? Or do I do like stripe sections of each of the solids? Let me see if I can find the box, the right box, and I can show you what I mean. Wrong box. That's okay. That is other Creative Knitter yarn. That's that gray that I showed the first time as well. But the Comfort Collection was a collection of pastels that is just so soothing, and I'm sure that that's why she called it the Comfort Collection. But, so, there's 2 skeins of the variegated, and it's got more of the blue and purple in it, only a tiny bit of what fades to like the pink shows right there. But mostly the blue, the purple, and the cream. There's a teeny tiny bit of the pink, like I said. And then there's the 4 solids. So I have the cream, and then the blue, the turquoisey blue, the purple, and the pink. So it's like, if I carry this one through the whole tee, do I go, you know, alternate by row, 1 row of each, 1 row, you know, keep going. In which case I think I would just carry them down the inside, because I don't really trust the magic knot, and I don't want to weave in 1.5 million ends, because that is no fun. But, or, because I have 2 sets of the minis and 2 full skeins of this, do I do like stripes where it's like, okay, 8 rows of the color work would be this, and 8 rows of the color work would be this, and 8 rows, you know, and keep going like that? Or is that going to end up too stripey looking? Or will the fact that the whole thing is in 1x1 color work with this variegated yarn, like blend it? Like, I just don't know. So I'm going to have to do some swatching, trying. So I'm going to skein it up soon and try experimenting with it. But I'd love to hear your opinions. Feel free to share them with me in the comments. I am totally open to suggestion there. But I have plenty of yardage, and it would be a beautiful shirt. I just have to decide exactly how to do it. I have a feeling that going one row, one row, one row is going to turn out more like I want it to than trying to do blocks of colors. I'm just not sure if it's going to be messy having that many skeins of yarn hanging about. So I would do all the ribbing and the yoke in the larger variegated skein, and cuffs and the bottom, and then have the others in the middle. So, stash acquisitions. I have the next 2 calendar minis, and so it's weeks 3 and 4. And if you remember weeks 1 and 2, they were both yellows and greens. So when I opened week 3, which is totally washing out, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to, nope, that's blowing out. Okay, so you can see that it's creamy with green and yellow and a tiny bit of brown running through it. So I was kind of like, is everything going to be yellow and green? What have I done with those others? There they are. Because the inspiration photos from when I ordered it definitely were not. And maybe the order of the yarns has to do with somebody wanting to do a fade or something, because there was the green with a tiny bit of brown speckle to it. And then there was the buttery yellow, which is washing out a lot. Let me pause and move my light and see if that helps. So there's this buttery yellow. Not sure if that's helping or not, but you can kind of see it's a little like kettle dyed looking, basically. And so then there's the yellow and the green and cream, like together. So maybe it'll focus on it. So it's kind of like, is it all going to be yellow and green? Feeling a little strange about it. So then when I opened week 4, sorry for the crinkling, I was happy to find a pinky color. Almost like strawberry candy, like the darker pinky reddy color, and then the lighter throughout. So there we go. Better representation of the color. So I was pretty excited to find that color in there. So here we are so far on the 13 weeks of summer minis. And I'm hoping to find more of the light aquas and blues and things that were in the inspiration photos as I get farther into the calendar. So fingers crossed on that one. And then this month, because I was busy and out of town last month and didn't think about it, maybe I wasn't out of town when the ordering happened. I don't remember. Anyway, I missed the cutoff for the July sock box by Southern Skeins yarn. And I usually get the sock box because I can mix and match fingering weight yarns and make all kinds of things. But I decided to go ahead and get the knot sock box that she offers this time because I had missed the cutoff for the sock yarn box and I still wanted a surprise box this month. So I ordered the knot sock yarn box, and I went ahead and added a project bag and a second skein because the knot sock yarn is generally less yardage, so I wanted to have enough to make something reasonable. And I was so thrilled with this month. First off, it's an adorable project bag. Look at the birdhouses. I mean, just so cute. So it's a drawstring project bag, big enough for the 2 skeins, but I adore these cute little bright birdhouses, totally in my colors. And then I was super excited when I opened the yarn. It is Pixie on BFL Sport. So it's 100% superwash, British blue-faced, I should pronounce this sheep, but I'm not. Anyway, it's BFL yarn, it's sport weight, it's 287 yards for 100 grams, and it is colorful and fun, and there's a lot of that aqua and minty green and blue that I like. So I got 2 skeins of that. Here's my second skein. So very excited about those. And then the goodies that came in the bag with it. This is it's very hard to see because it's clear. It is a 2-inch measuring, so it can help you measure stitches per inch with your swatch. It's clear. It's shaped like a little kitty. It only has inch markings. It doesn't have centimeters on it, but I generally measure in inches, so that works for me. But it's super cute. You could hang it on a keychain or on your bag. And then she always sends a baggie of other goodies that includes a tea and a progress keeper and a surprise. So the tea this month is raspberry pomegranate stash tea. And then the progress keeper is a bird. So it goes along with the theme of the project bag. A cute little bird. And then these buttons are adorable. So I've kept it all together to share with you, but they're little wooden buttons, and each bird is different, but they are all in bright colors that I love, and I think I could do something super cute with these birdie buttons. So I was super excited about this box. So then I went back and forth on, okay, for August, do I want the sock box? Do I want the not sock box? What do I want? And so I messaged her about my agony in choosing what I wanted. And she helped me. She talked me through it. So you'll just have to wait and see what we get next month. But hopefully it is just as exciting as this month. I haven't 100% decided, but since this is a sport weight yarn, how cool would it be in a shifty sweater by Andrea Mowry with this kettle dyed light gray that I have? I think that it would pair nicely. You don't mind if I grab that, do you? I didn't think you would. I know. Too much yarn. So much yarn. Okay, there's never too much yarn. Don't lie. But in this basket somewhere is an entire sweater quantity, if I did want to use it alone, of this light gray kettle dyed sport weight yarn called Gusto. It's 100% superwash merino. It says it's a DK weight, but it is a super light DK. So my local yarn store actually classifies it as a sport weight. But you can see it's like a very light silvery gray. And I think that it would pair nicely for the mosaic knitting in the shifty with this super bright, like very saturated yarn, so that you'd have those two elements in it. And I think that that could be really cool. So once again, love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to slap those in the comments. I will probably make a size 2 or size 3, which, if I'm going by the yardage she has listed, means I have plenty of the gray to use as my main color, but I would come up less than 100 yards short on this. So I was trying to decide if I wanted to find a solid that matched one of the colors in the variegated and integrate that as well, which I could just take this along with me to the store. I might look for like the bright turquoise that's in there, or the blue, even a minty green, or popping some of the more purpley color in there, because then I could extend it to make sure I had enough. So throw that back in that box and I'll organize that later. So that is my acquisition from Southern Skeins this month. And then just today, right before I came up here to my office, the postman brought a box. And it is from Knit-Picks, and I thought you might want to open it with me. So, forgive any noise, but I have not opened it at all yet. So I will open it here with you. Yes, I was tempted by their summer sale. I do like to support indie dyers, but I also recognize the affordability of making garments, and sometimes I need to go with what I can get a sweater quantity of. So first thing I did was I got some black stroll fingering because I decided I wanted to do the contrast toes and heels on my husband's socks that I showed the start of, and they are black and orange. So I got some black because why didn't I have black sock yarn in my stash to begin with? I have so many other colors. Then I got a whole lot of this Paragon sport weight, and it's looking purple on the screen, but it's not. It is a blue, like a cornflower blue. Anyway, it is 50% fine merino wool, 25% baby alpaca, and 25% mulberry silk. And you better believe I got a sweater's quantity, and it is going to be something lovely for fall, like a transitional weight item. I earmarked a pattern and, of course, left my notes to myself at my actual office. But I think maybe the pattern was called Fall in Lace or something. Anyway, beautiful. Loving it. And then I also got a whole lot of this Shine Sport Weight in the color Reef. It is 110 yards, 60% Pima cotton, 40% modal, whatever. And I have a lot of it. It is showing up not quite the right color on the screen, but it is a gorgeous turquoise yarn, leaning more towards the green side than the blue side, even though it's looking very blue on screen. But I have a whole bag of it, and I'm trying to remember what I decided to make with it. Gonna have to check my notes, but I have a lot of it. So it had to be something very important. I believe it was a t-shirt, because it's Pima cotton and modal, and I think that that's what I would have earmarked it for. But, you know, I mean, impulse buys, like shopping. So then I also got some cable connectors for my options to make trying on a little bit easier. So I don't have to switch to my only 60-inch cable if it's not available. I can just use a cable connector and add another cable to whatever I'm working on to try on. So that's awesome. I got some 16-inch interchangeable needle cables for my shorties. So I got a black and a green. So that is it. See, I didn't go overboard, right? That's it for my Knit-Picks haul. So who knows when I'll get to these projects, because there's so many things going on in my head at any given time. But who can resist a good sale? I mean, also, I just kind of want to roll in this yarn. It is so soft. Yes, so soft. So I'm really excited about this, to have some more summery yarns, because I keep finding these gorgeous patterns, and most of what I have in my stash is wool, definitely more autumn or winter blends of yarn, And it just gets so hot where I live. It's hot and it's humid. Like I said, I think this Paragon is going to make a gorgeous transitional piece. So it may be like a short sleeve or 3/4 sleeve piece. And the silk in it, just the shine, it's just beautiful. So very, very excited about all of that. It's been a good couple of weeks for acquisitions. Maybe my acquisitions need to slow down a little bit, but you know. So there's one other thing I'd like to talk about if you're interested. I'm calling it the dirty little secret. And it's those projects you start and don't finish. And they sit for years and years. And they're so close to being done. And you're not sure why you haven't finished them. But maybe you lost your mojo on it. Or maybe it's not your style anymore after it sat for so long. But I got to show some of what I have. So bear with me. I have this box, and I put stuff in it that needs to be finished, and it doesn't get finished. It's really full. Do you want to see? I am so happy to share with you. So, this is a gnome hat. I mean, it's for a kid, but it's big enough like I could put it on. It's a gnome hat. All that needs to be done is the ends woven in. Have I done it? No. How many years has it been? I've lost track. I think this was a burp rag. Needs the ends woven in. Haven't done it. Bib. Needs a button. Made this before my kids were born. Haven't done it. Cotton newborn hat. Needs the ends woven in. Haven't done it. This is a doll blanket. Needs the ends woven in. Haven't done it. I think my daughter was 18 months old when I knit this. Yeah. She still has dolls though, so maybe I should weave in the ends and give it to her. Or maybe we should give it to another kid. This headband needs the ends woven in and sewn together. Haven't done it. Although, I could call that a Christmas gift taken care of if I would just get on that. This is another headband. It's really more kid size, so it needs a button because it's a calorimetry, which was a really popular project about 1 million years ago. I guess it's not. It's a cabled version of the calorimetry, and I don't remember who did the cabled variation, but I would have made this at least 12 or 13 years ago. So it needs a button and the ends woven in. Who knows when that will happen. This is a dish scrubby. It needs to be sewn together, the ends pulled tight, and the ends woven in. Washcloth needs the ends woven in. This is, oh gosh, this is going to be hard to show because I'm not sure how well the camera will pick it up, and I don't even remember which is the right side, but this is one of those picture washcloths, and oh, there it is. It's Mario. Can you see? I actually made this for a friend for her birthday. Maybe it's her baby shower. I don't know. I didn't finish it in time, so I didn't give it to her. And I probably should have just gone ahead and woven in the ends and given it to her. Oh, we're going to a birthday party soon for a kiddo who loves Mario. I should just finish this. See? All kinds of treasures. Washcloth needs the ends woven in. These are supposed to be fingerless gloves, knit long ways. I have a hooded scarf that is in the same yarn. It's no longer really my color scheme because I don't wear warm browns anymore after having my colors done. But I should probably sew them up anyway, and either I'll wear them, my daughter will wear them. She started borrowing my things occasionally, accessories wise, because obviously my clothes don't fit her yet, but they're both done. They just need sewing up. I don't even remember how many years. This is a partial washcloth that appears to need more yarn. Oh look, a single baby booty. A poorly crocheted glove. I think this was back from when I was experimenting with shapes. Another poorly crocheted glove with piece of paper stuck to it. I forget what this was supposed to be, but it could be a headband. It's nice and soft. It's really soft. Need to do something with it. Needs the ends woven in. Ditto this guy. This one's orange though, so a lot of people in my family wear orange. I could probably sew it together and pass it on. Ooh, here's one that's both. You know, that was probably 10 years ago or so. Ooh, it's a purse handle. A purse handle. Okay, so I knit this purse in probably 2007 while I was living in California. This pattern might be from the Personalities book. I really don't remember. The handle has like a shiny ribbon yarn felted into it. So the straps are intended to be sewn onto the outside of the bag. And there is even a sewing needle hanging on the inside of the bag. And the whole thing has been done and felted and sitting in this basket. Well, not this basket because I've moved a few times, but it's been done and felted since sometime in 2007. And it's not my colors anymore. It doesn't match my wardrobe at all, not even in the slightest. So I need to finish it and gift it because somebody should use it. I'm just not sure if felted purses are really a thing anymore. Like, I know there was a while where they were a big thing, and my mom's knitting group especially made like 1 million felted purses, and this one doesn't have any weird stuff in it. There's no like fur hanging out of the outside or anything. It's just strictly the stripes and then the tiny bit of shininess that's felted into the handles and into the very top dark stripe. And that's it for like fanciness. So need to finish that. And then another purse that I know is from the Personalities book. This purse is supposed to have some kind of button or clasp, I think, and a pocket sewn onto the outside, and then it's got these I-cord handles that like go onto the outside also. So it's like short. It's not a shoulder bag. It's like meant to be carried in hand. It's all done, but it's not sewn together. And it's probably also been done since sometime in 2007 because that's when I was doing felted purses. And I just really suck at finishing. Sewing things together is just, if I don't do it right away when I've made the thing and when I really want it, then it just languishes. It just sits here. Let's see what else is in the bag. Oh my gosh, I forgot about these. And my kids are too big now. Ha! So, This is a pair of devil pants. You're supposed to fold this bit over and sew it down and put elastic in it. And then there is a tail. I should do this. Surely some kid I know needs a pair of devil breeches, right? So I need to do that. I need to sew that waistband down, put the elastic in it, and sew that devil tail on. Good idea. This is a hat that requires you to sew the top together. Never again, dude, because it didn't get finished, clearly. So you're supposed to sew all these points together at the top to make the top of the hat. Clearly, that did not happen. This is a washcloth that looks like I ran out of yarn on the corner. This is a washcloth with a car on it. Just needs the ends woven in. It even says beep beep. Let's see if we can figure out what this one is. Anybody have an idea? It must have been the way. I haven't a clue what that one is supposed to be. If anybody figures it out, feel free to tell me. Wow, I didn't know I had so many washcloths down here. Okay, this one is a unicorn. That one I can actually see. So I used to make a whole lot of washcloths, especially these picture ones. I did a bunch of the pattern sign-ups where they send you only like 2 to 4 rows a day, and at the end of the month you have a washcloth. And my whole knitting group used to do them. We had a lot of fun with them, but clearly you can see that I didn't do the ends in all of them. What is this one? Let's try and figure it out real quick. What direction does this go? I don't know. I'm going to have to look at that a bit more to determine what that was supposed to be. No idea. Oh, generic Christmas washcloth. So clearly my gift stash would be way bigger if I did some finishing work. Is there a finishing fairy? Can somebody please give me her phone number? Because either I need mojo or help or, I don't know, something in order to get all this done. The hard part is to stop working on the new things, though, and go back to the old things that really need my time and attention when I've got so much energy for the new stuff. Like the new stuff is just calling to me, and it's like what I want to do, and so my motivation, it's all in the new stuff and it's not in the old stuff. I mean, to the point that I have an entire sweater I haven't seamed. There's a reason for it, though. Well, 2 reasons. First off, it is a more fitted sweater, and I don't remember what size it is because I started it back in 2007. There's kind of a dividing line in my head of before I moved back to Oklahoma from California and after. So I kind of have a frame of reference for when I started certain things. Anyway, it is a more fitted sweater. It is from the book Stitch and Bitch. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, that's the back. It's a V-neck in the front, and it's definitely more muted than anything I wear anymore. I've learned that muted colors like this are not my best. But it's also more fitted, and I have had 2 children since I knit this sweater, and I have no idea if it's going to fit. So I have the sleeves. This is the problem with sweaters that have to be sewn up afterwards. I mean, they're just all these pieces. Part of the problem is that I didn't understand or pay attention on the instructions on the back, and I missed putting in purl row. Where's the back? for the fold over neck. So when I did lay this out to start to sew it up last year, when I actually got it out and finished the one unfinished sleeve, I realized that I either have to unpick this bind off and take this part out, or I'm going to have to force the fold and just sew it down anyway. And I think the better option, honestly, is going to... I hate when my camera freezes. I think the best option is going to be to unpick the bind off and re-knit just these few rows and put that purl row in so that I have that fold over in there. It's going to be a little difficult to do because you can kind of see it's a very fuzzy yarn. There's quite a bit of halo to it, so it sticks to itself. So it's a little harder to pull out. But I think that's the best option. I also think if the sweater itself is too fitted for me, that I could save it for my daughter. It's probably not really her color either because it's so muted, but we'll see. Sometime this fall, when it's more seasonally appropriate to wear, I think I'll get my mojo for putting it together. And then I'm gonna block it, and hopefully it grows a little bit in the blocking because the ribbing is, I mean, this is the back, and you can see I'll have to pull it to make it halfway around my body. So I'm hoping that I can block it out a little bit, and you know, we'll just see how it goes. And if it doesn't work for me, I will find somebody it does work for. But I can tell the straps are going to be okay. Like, I feel like they're going to fit my body fine. It's just, I'm not sure about the bottom part of it. Like I said, had a couple of kids since then. You know, bodies change. And so we'll just see what happens with this one. But I'd love to hear if you have projects languishing or if you are a finish everything right away person. What do you do with the projects that you don't finish? And then if I'm really confessing, really and truly, that's like the box of finished things that need finishing. This box over here is the projects that were started and the knitting itself is not finished. So that's a whole nother confessional, and we can go through that a different time. But thanks for sticking with me through my confessions of a non-finisher. And I know I've gotten better about that, but maybe, is it the projects I'm picking require less finishing? Is it that I'm like super motivated to wear them because I've been mostly making garments? If I was still making washcloths, would I weave the ends in? Or is it just the fact that I can put them on my body and wear them out of the house that really does it? Like, I don't know. Where does that mojo come from? And how can I get enough mojo back to finish some of these things? And then find them places that they will be loved and they will be used. Just like I talked about earlier in the episode, really wanting everything that I put my time into to actually be used, to find a home where it doesn't just sit on a shelf. And if it's just sitting on a shelf with me, then it needs to move on to someplace else. So what do you do with your unloved knits? You can tell me that too. And then last question, I know Ravelry is not an accessible space for everyone, and you are always welcome to message me on Instagram, but I wondered if people would appreciate a Ravelry forum for chatting, or if that's something you already have too much of. I've been thinking about in the future maybe doing other knit-alongs or exchanges or different things. So if you have thoughts, please share those with me. If there's enough interest, I'm happy to create a Ravelry forum where people can interact. We are still doing the Woolly Witchcraft Ranunculus knit-along, and I have so many ranunculus in my head, but I don't know if I can give up the summer knitting right now to do some of those, because I definitely want to do an all mohair version and a more wintry version, and so those might just have to wait till the fall. But there's so many things to knit, and not enough time in the day. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again next time. I will put everything I've talked about below. And I love and appreciate your comments, your likes, your follows. I can't believe how many subscribers I have. I know it's still a very low number to some people, but to have almost 500 people care about when the next episode comes out just blows my mind still. It's still a very new thing for me. And I know the timing is erratic, and it's just based on what I can do when. I thought I'd have an empty house this week, and I don't, but luckily my son is letting me record. So anyway, I will see you next time.